So The Quiet Place Day 1 coming out, it feels like the perfect time to revisit this franchise and do a ranking of the 3 movies that are currently in it. Obviously, I'm going to be doing it by least favorite to favorite, and this is not an objective opinion, it's just my opinion as always. So, if you disagree or you agree, comment down below, let me know what your order is. And before I get into it, if you are a fan of these videos, I do these on my channel. I do movie reviews, I do tier lists, I do series rankings. So join me down below if you haven't already, like the video, all of that. And if you want to get any of my more in-depth thoughts on any of these movies, I'll put a link to the whole franchise up here at some point. So feel free to check them out in detail if you're really interested in those opinions. But with that, we're going to get into it. We're going to do a ranking of the 3 movies in this franchise from my least favorite to my favorite. So coming in at number 3, and it won't be a surprise to anybody who watched the most recent review I put out, and that's A Quiet Place Day 1, the most recent prequel. And I definitely didn't hate this movie. I like all 3 movies of this franchise, so take that with a grain of salt, but this is by far my least favorite. This is probably a movie I'm never going to revisit because I don't really think it added anything, which is really disappointing, as I stated, because when I went into this prequel, I was really looking forward to gathering some information, filling in the blanks in the series, things we didn't know already about the creatures. We didn't get any of that. I want to know where they came from, why they were sent, what their purpose is. Like, do they just kill people? Do they eat people? Like, why are they here? Like, it's answers we didn't have from the original 2 movies, and they just didn't give us any of that. And this is a movie I said I found incredibly derivative. It just felt like it was kind of a cash grab based on the other 2. Again, I didn't hate it. Left a sour taste in my mouth. Felt like a movie that never really needed to be made. This one followed the main character who was leaving a hospice facility when the incident happened. You see from the trailer, like the world was taken over by these monsters. You'd be led to believe like you would get some background on that. You'd kind of like get into it exponentially. You kind of figure out how things are going. That's really not what they do in this movie. You have her and this guy, they become friends. It's kind of like a tale about the fact that she's dying, friendship, coming to terms with that. Another guy who's, he really wants to live. So you have the contrast there. I thought it was a unique environment for this movie to take place in New York because it's so loud compared to the other farmlands where you have absolutely no noise. Just an interesting contrast. They explore that pretty well. I thought the sound design was good. But at the end of the day, I just absolutely hated the characters in this movie. I thought there was way too many weird tonal issues. Like, the main characters are fine fundamentally. They're acted well. The girl I like I think she's a good actress. I understand the purpose to her character. The guy she kind of befriends, who's like the secondary character in this movie, I thought he was annoying as shit. And I thought he was just a mopey guy, just walking around crying, picking the dumbest possible outlet to every single scenario he's in. I don't know, like, this movie didn't do anything for me. I think if you're a fan of this franchise, you like this movie going into it. I definitely think there's some positives. Again, sound design, I think the environment, I think the acting. Some people might really like this story, thought it was pretty bland. I don't know, it's just a movie I didn't think added anything to this franchise. Didn't hate it, but by far my least favorite. But anyways, coming in at number 2 ahead of that is my second favorite movie. It's actually, surprisingly, the first one, A Quiet Place, the one that stars John Krasinski and his family. And at the time the original Quiet Place came out, this movie was incredibly unique, and I still think it is incredibly unique, honestly, for the type of silent film it is. But it's the most tonally consistent movie, which I think is a really good thing. How they respect the rules of sound, the way the creatures interact. I think it's by far the most consistent. You have some really cool things going on in this one, where you have John Krasinski trying to protect his family, where you have them interacting with creatures on their farm. He's trying to teach their kids the rules. I think this movie works as a very good foundation for like an introduction into this franchise because it tells you the rules in a cool way. It doesn't just do an exposition dump, but the way they expose you to some of the stuff's pretty unique. Where you'll see like these newspaper clippings on the wall. He's exploring life lessons with his kids, when they can make sound, when they can't. Just a very clever way to introduce you to this sound-based movie. The issue I took with this one more than some of the other ones, again, this is very nitpicky. I like both of these movies a lot, is it's almost too serious in the point where they have no wiggle room in what they're trying to do. Because when you make it so serious to the point where you can't step on a board funny, or you can't step on a piece of glass, you can't turn a faucet, it really limits the type of stuff that they can have the characters doing without you thinking it's just stupid. And this movie really suffers from that in the second half, in my opinion, where you have a couple of actions by some of the characters that are just really dumb and they don't add up at all tonally to what the rest of the film is doing. You have John Krasinski's character not just making sound, but doing a heroic sacrifice. I get it, it's cinema, but it's just stupid. He should have just lived. Come on, why is John doing that? You have kids who don't know how to drive, who somehow have learned how to drive. The creatures don't chase the car. You have them shooting guns and creatures not swarming them. You have like issues with the way they use the sound. Some of it's forgiven, but there's a lot of issues I have with how serious this movie takes itself. For them to not fully embrace and respect it as it concludes. There's just a couple of stupid scenes. Again, really like it. I like number 2's fun a little bit more. With that, as I just mentioned, coming in at number 1 is actually A Quiet Place Part 2, and that is a surprise to me because it's not too dissimilar from number 1. But what I really like about this one is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think they let up a little bit with the sound rules. They can have a little bit more fun with the CGI, and it kind of just improves on everything from the first one a little bit, except it's not as much of a consistently silent film with rules. So if you want that type of movie, you're probably going to prefer 1. But if you want a little bit more action, you want a little bit more exploration out into the world, a little bit more character development, you like 2 a little bit more probably. And that's where I stand. Again, I really like 1. 2 is just a little bit more fun, more rewatchable to me. This one stars Cillian Murphy, as I mentioned in my review. You put that guy in anything, I'm watching it. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. He kills every role he's in. Again, it's no slant at John Krasinski. I really like him as an actor, but there's layers to this. Cillian Murphy's up here. John Krasinski's here. He's still good. Can't compete. What I really like about this one is it really just gives me Last of Us vibes when I watch it. You know, if you've ever seen that show or played that game, you have Cillian Murphy and the deaf daughter. They're venturing out to this island. They're trying to save the world with the trick of the sound waves they figured out. You know, he doesn't speak signs. She can't hear him. So you have that like hearing barrier that's really cool. You also explore a lot more territory in this. You get to go to the docks, you go to this island, you get to see more of the world. The scale of it was a little bit more than what I got in the first one, and it's about the perfect amount of what I wanted, where there's just a little bit more action while it remains true to the rules. But it also, you know, it doesn't deviate so far away that it's just stupid. It was like a perfect blend for me for this franchise in particular. Again, this one's not without faults. I took some issues with a couple of the things, some of the silly inconsistencies of this one. The fact that they didn't go far enough. As I said in my review, I wish they would have went a little bit more, branched out a little bit more like The Walking Dead. We get a little bit of a taste. I still think the taste is better than absolutely nothing when you go back and watch them side by side. It feels a little bit more fresh, a little bit more rewatchable. For that reason, it's my number 1. So there you have it. Those are my rankings for the 3 Quiet Place films. Again, as I indicated in the opener, I didn't really hate or dislike any of these 3 movies, but I would say Day One is significantly lower than the other 2. But yeah, these are just my opinions. So do you agree, disagree? If you do, comment down below. Let me know what your order of this franchise would be and why. As always, if you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell are you waiting for? I kind of do it all on this channel. I do new releases, scary stuff, you know, franchise rankings, tier lists, so join me down below. That's all I got in this video. Peace.